So the Mavericks are making their first NBA Finals appearance since the 2010-2011 season, where they took down the Miami Heat and were awarded their first championship title in their franchise's history. However, the Celtics are making their second Finals appearance in 3 years. They lost to Golden State in 2021-2022 in 6 games, where Stephen Curry got his first NBA Finals MVP. So the moment's now. This is Thursday, 8:30 on ABC. Game 1 begins, where actually, not only does Kyrie make his postseason return, Kristaps Porzingis makes his with the Dallas Mavericks. So there's a lot going on, a lot of reunionship here. I want to know who will be crowned as the 2024 NBA champions, the Boston Celtics or the Dallas Mavericks?
I'm picking the Boston Celtics. I think it might go 7 games, and I think it will be very exciting. I think the Dallas Mavericks are the best competition that the Celtics have faced in this playoff run. They've actually gotten kind of lucky in this playoff run. They played Miami, no Jimmy Butler. They played the
Pacers.
The Pacers with Halliburton hurt, and they played the Cavaliers with Donovan Mitchell hurt. So that helped them a lot along the way, and they've got a sterling playoff record. They only lost 2 games so far in the playoffs, but I do think that this is a step up for them in terms of competition, and I do think it will be tough. And I think that there's a number of factors that you look at in this series, Doncic and Irving, and how they attack Horford and Porzingis down in the paint. They're definitely quicker. Doncic being a pretty big guy as well. I think that could be interesting to watch. I think the Celtics will create mismatches on Irving. He's going to be one of the smaller guys out there. It'd be fun to see Drew Holiday post up Kyrie Irving. That might be fun to watch. I think that the Celtics will drive directly at Luka Doncic because he is not a prototypical point guard in any stretch, right? You look at him, he doesn't look like a point guard. He doesn't look like he's that quick out there either, but he is. He's kind of deceiving, but I do think the Celtics will go right at him, and I think they'll have some success with that. I don't think the Dallas has any really two-way stars. The Doncic and Irving are not great defensive players, whereas you have Drew Holiday and
Derek White.
Well, Derek White, yeah, they both made second-team all-defensive team. I think that's something that flies under the radar a little bit, but very important to the Celtics. I think that the Celtics can make Luka work a little bit harder on defense, then that will help them, and he may not score quite as much. You look at the Celtics' way they're going to win here. I think they're going to have to make their threes. They were number 1 in average of 3-pointers per game was 16.5, 38.8%, and they made 14.6 a game generally for 36.8%. On the other hand, the Mavs 14.7 a game, shooting 36.9% of their shots. They made 12.6 for 37.2. So the Celtics are ahead of them by about 6 points a game on those threes, two a game. That's important, I think. The Celtics, when they made 15 threes, 54-9. Under 15, 10-9. So you got to hit those threes. And that was one thing that kind of did them in, I think, last year against the Miami Heat, where they went cold from 3. They were driving down the lane and trying to hit the layups or just dominate on the boards and in the paint. And they were turning the ball over way too much. They got to hit their 3-pointers, and they got to be confident that they can do that. When they make 15 or more threes in the postseason, they're 7-0. So I think that's an important aspect of this. I think Brown and Tatum's efficiency is going to be important, and I think they'll be very efficient because look at the players that are going to be guarding them. Derek Jones, P.J. Washington, Josh Green. I think those guys are a step underneath Brown and Tatum in terms of star power and effectiveness and efficiency. So I think they'll have good luck. Brown and Tatum playing against those guys who will be defending them. I think the Missoula versus Kidd matchup is very interesting. They've both been quite creative in the playoffs, and I look for Holiday to be exploiting his defender, and because of his size, he's a sneaky big, and I think he'll use that to his advantage. So those are some of the matchups and some of the strategies and some of the insights that I have for this series, which I think will be won by the Celtics.
So we talked about all year, right? Ever since the Porzingis trade, we said Celtics are going to win the NBA Finals. They should win the NBA Finals. With the team that's currently constructed, with the record that they have, the best in the NBA, I think it's their 4th or 5th highest winning percentage in their entire franchise. They should be able to win the NBA Finals. I'm picking the Dallas Mavericks. I'm picking the Mavericks to win. Because I went against I picked them in round 1 to beat the Clippers. I picked against them against OKC. I picked against them against the Timberwolves. I'm not making the same mistake 3 times. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It ain't going to happen a 3rd time. I picked the Celtics in every single series so far. I'm picking the Mavericks to win this time. And I think it's going to come down to, if the Celtics have a shot, it's going to be because Drew Holiday stepped it up big time and finally shut down Kyrie Irving and or Luka Doncic. But that hasn't been the case so far in their 2 matchups this season. In the 2 matchups, Drew Holiday allowed Irving to shoot nearly 50%, 4 of 9. While against Luka, he allowed Luka to shoot 62.5%, 5 of 8. So his defensive prowess, which he's primarily used for, it's a slight upgrade because offensively, I think he's a little bit better than Marcus Smart. But the Celtics, I assume we're looking at him as an upgrade to Marcus Smart, at least consistency-wise and overall better defensive point guard. But what I find fascinating is that in the big-time moments, especially in the NBA Finals, Jason Tatum, the number 1 player or the should-be number 1 player on the Celtics, does not do very well. And also, just in these playoffs in general, Jason Tatum has not shot the 3 very well. From 3, he's shooting under 30%. Under 30%. 29%. Now, he does have the most points per game for the Celtics in the playoffs, and he does actually lead the entire team in rebounds per game as well as assists per game. But in these big-time moments and in the big-time games, Jason Tatum, and in the NBA Finals, Jason Tatum has come up relatively small. Meanwhile, what we've seen from the Dallas Mavericks so far is really the coming alive of 2 players, 2 big men. Daniel Gafford, who came up with a number of blocks. He averaged 2.6 blocks a game against the number 1 defensive team in the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves, in the Western Conference Finals. He blocked 3 shots and conceded 3 as well against Karl-Anthony Towns. And I thought I picked the Timberwolves because I thought that the defensive player of the year, as well as Karl-Anthony Towns, a relatively good defender, and I think a relatively good offensive player as well, would shut down Gafford and Lively. They didn't. Now, Lively's actually my number 2. Lively, I think, is going to step up big here. I really think he is. His defense is going to be good, but what's fascinating is he made NBA history on the offensive side when he went 16 of 16. Shot 100% from the floor. Now, it was, layups and dunks and stuff like that, relatively close shots. But if you include the second round as well, he's made 21 consecutive baskets. Efficiency. Very, very efficient. It's the longest streak of the play-by-play era in NBA postseason history, which started nearly 30 years ago, back in 1996-97. So, I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks. The Luka Doncic, I think, hands down. Maybe we talked about this on Friday. 1A, 1B. Him, Jokic, who should have been the MVP. I think a lot of people thought, Jokic is the MVP because of advanced stats and the tier 2, tier 3 stats. Luka Doncic, though, the number wise, it's just incredible. But in the playoffs is where it gets actually pretty incredible, because in the playoffs, Luka Doncic is scoring, and this is an insane number. He's averaging nearly 29 points a game, 9.6 rebounds, and 8.8 assists. And what's even crazier, though, is against the number one defensive team in the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves, he averaged 32, 9, and 8 with 2.2 steals. Now, going into last season when they acquired Kyrie, their defense dropped off. Luka, lo and behold, he's focusing more on defense. He's averaging 2.2 steals, far and above more than anyone else on the Dallas Mavericks in that series, as well as Kyrie Irving is really matching him kind of point for point, 27 points against the Timberwolves in the 5-game series. But against the Boston Celtics, and this is where maybe Luka needs to step up even more, against the Boston Celtics, Kyrie has found a little bit of trouble. And we showed this earlier in the show. He's 0 for 10 since 2022, since he stomped on the logo and flipped the bird off to the Celtics. 20.8 points a game, 4.7 assists, 4.9 rebounds, 42% from the floor, sub 30% three-point percentage, and a net plus-minus of minus 49. But if you total it up, when Kyrie Irving is on the floor, his team, so the Brooklyn Nets as well as the Dallas Mavericks, get outscored by 87 points. That's with him on the court. They get outscored by 87. So I think that's really if you shut down Kyrie, that's the way that the Dallas Mavericks are going to falter. But I just think, who is going to stop? Be honest with me. Who's going to stop Luka? Jason Tatum? Drew Holiday? Derek White?
My thought is they're not going to stop Luka. Okay, but one guy can't beat the Celtics. It's got to be the whole team. The Celtics are a deeper team.
That's true.
They've tried hard to have a deeper rotation this year, and I think that's worked well for them. I don't think their players get as tired. I think the Mavs are going to have to play more minutes than the Mavs starters are going to have to play more minutes than the Celtics starters. I think that's a factor. I think the off the bench. Now it will look like Porzingis will be the starter now. Al Horford will come off the bench, or vice versa. Having Porzingis back in there, that is a big thing. If he can play effectively, I just don't see how the Mavs can beat the Celtics.
I think also we have to look at some underrated players as well. P.J. Washington has made more threes than Jason Tatum in these playoffs so far. As well as Luka also has a little bit of motivation. Now, I'm sure he's not focusing on this, but Luka's playing with a little bit of motivation because he's trying to become the 6th player in NBA history to lead the league in scoring as well as win the title in the same season. First player since Shaq in 2000. So there's a lot, and also Luka has to prove that y'all screwed up. I should have been the MVP of the league.
Yeah.
Not Doncic, not Shea, who beat me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. Shea beat me in MVP voting.
I think that Doncic is a generational talent, Nate. Okay? I'll say that right now. I agree he's a generational talent.
Taking a shot at Gilbert
But it
Arenas.
takes more than one player to beat a team as good as the Celtics. And Kyrie Irving, I'm going to have a very hard time playing against Boston, particularly in Boston. He'll get some points, but he's not the biggest guy out there. They're going to create mismatches with him. They have Drew Holiday up against him, a much bigger player, a much better defensive player. I think defense is a factor in this series, and the Dallas Mavericks defense is not rated anywhere near as high as the Celtics. And if Porzingis can be back in there and be effective, I just don't see how the Mavs can beat them. They don't have the depth. They don't have the size when you have Horford and Porzingis back. And you talk about P.J. Washington hitting more threes than Jason Tatum. Okay, but how about the rebounds and the assists? Huh? Jason Tatum almost averaging a triple-double here. I think that those factors come into play too. An assist is like scoring. You can count that as points. Add his points and the assists together, man. The guy's playing really well. Can he do it when it's on the line here? It's something he has to really prove, I think. But the Celtics, I think they learned a lot when they lost to the Warriors a couple of years ago. They've made it back. They've learned a lot. They have a deeper team. They have a team that is more experienced now, and I think they're going to do it.
Well, I'll also say this. They should have learned because currently, going into the finals, Tatum has a third He has a third of the turnovers he had that other finals run. Where he
so
had
they've definitely been better. Now, have they played talent as tough as the Dallas Mavericks played along the way to get to the finals? I don't think so.
No.
And that's a little bit of a question mark.
That has to be a factor as well, because you didn't play a series with the team's best player. You didn't play the entire series with that team's best player on the court all the time. Tyrese Halliburton got hurt and missed 2 games. Mitchell missed 2 games. Jimmy Butler was out the entire series. Now, even if, let's do the other side of this, Giannis would have been hurt. Dame was also playing hurt. The Knicks were also banged up brutally. So no matter which way you spin it, the Magic maybe, if the Magic upset the Cavs, but still, even if you take the other losers and put them in against the Celtics, they would have also been banged up and hurt. There was no healthy route that the Celtics could have had, winners or losers, outside of that first round. Even in that first round, you play the Heat, who lost Jimmy Butler. Yeah.
Well, I think there's more pressure on the Celtics in this series.
There has to be.
Because if they don't win it, the season is going to be viewed as a failure by many people.
And especially if Jason Tatum plays poorly, it's going to be everybody's going to be ripping Tatum.
Yeah. Well, they won 62 games in the regular season. They didn't even try the last
64.
64, and they hardly tried in the last month of the season because they had it all locked up.
Right.
They had the subs out there at the end of the game when the games were close. So it's theirs to lose, I think, and they can't let the pressure get to them. There is more pressure on them, but they do have the home court advantage. They got to win that. They got to win those games at home, and they've been a little spotty at home during the playoffs in the last couple of years. A little better than a 500 record.
A game or two over 500.
Yeah,
right.
It's been better in the last series. They didn't lose at home. So,
well, they swept. Yeah. So
they swept. So, I'm hoping they win, Nate. I'm really hoping they win. It's been a long time waiting for a championship for Boston, and I've been a fan going back to Bill Russell. So,
you just dated yourself right there.
Yeah. Well, I can date myself by being on the screen here.
Fair enough. All right. I think that does wrap it up. So, okay. So you have Celtics in how many?
I think it could go 7, and that will be a nerve-wracking game 7, and then that could be really close. It could go 7. We'll see. I hope if the Mavs have an injury or something, that could be a big deal because they aren't as deep as the Celtics, and the Celtics have to stay healthy too. And can Porzingis play? Right. I think that's a key factor here. Having him out there being effective. Look at all the stats that he had for the Celtics this year. He was number 1 in many categories. So it's important to have him out there. He should be well rested. Yeah. He's been played since game 2 of the first round, right? Or game 4 of the first round when he got hurt.
Might have been game 3.
I think it was game 4 he got hurt.
Game 3 or game 4. Yeah. I'll take Mavericks in 6. Mavericks in 6.
I don't think so, Nate.
Mavericks have been great on the road so far in these playoffs. I'm taking Mavericks in 6.
I think they're playing against the tougher both teams are playing against the toughest competition. That's the way it should be.
Really?
This is the finals.
You think the Timberwolves will give them more hell, or gave them more hell than the Celtics will?
Well, they beat the Timberwolves. I don't think they'll beat the Celtics.
Beat them in 5 games, though. Yeah. Beat them in 5 games.
Yeah, but the Timberwolves,
they're a young team. I'll give you that.
They made a lot of mistakes.
Inexperienced team.
They made a lot of mistakes. Edwards, he started out like a house of fire, man. When he got to the conference championship there, he had some mental mistakes there.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.